Good evening and welcome to Thursdays with NAMI. My name is Peg Morrison. I'll be your host tonight. I am the Assistant Director of NAMI North Carolina. That's the National Alliance on Mental Illness North Carolina, and I am so glad y'all are here with us tonight. Thursdays with NAMI is our way of building conversations and building community around the topic of mental health. I met tonight's guest at a NAMI walk way back in May, back when it was hot. Lavani Gilyard was wearing this cool t-shirt with a message that got my attention. It said, "Knowledge of self comes from pain." As a trauma survivor, that definitely resonated with me, and we had a conversation. It turned out the shirt was produced by her company. We'll be hearing more about her company in just a few minutes. It's called 210 Black Rose. And she wanted to develop cool t-shirts to help start conversations about mental health journeys. So we'll be hearing her journey in just a few moments. As usual, the first part of our show will be an interview with our guest. Halfway through, we'll show a video of the week, and then we'll spend time taking questions from you, members of our virtual studio audience, live and on Facebook. Now we've got a quick word from our sponsors. Thursdays with NAMI is funded in part by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services, Division of Mental Health, Developmental Disabilities, and Substance Use Services through the Federal Community Mental Health Block Grant Fund. I really do appreciate their work and their focus on recovery and real people. So thanks to the division, and thanks to Lavani for being here with us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, without any further ado, we'll go ahead and jump in. We always like to hear the background of our guests, so maybe you can tell us your story in a nutshell.
Well, I'm Lavani Gilyard. I'm originally from South Carolina. I've been in North Carolina since 2014. And as you already said, I am the creator of 210 Black Rose, which is a mental health brand that I started and launched back in May of this year. And it is just to break the stigma and start the conversation about mental health. And that's my goal.
All right.
Just because of my journey.
Yeah, I love that outcome. Lots of people do different things to promote recovery or as part of their recovery. Some people go into public speaking. So it sounds like you found sort of your own creative path, which is neat. And tell us about what brought you to North Carolina.
Well, what brought me to North Carolina was, like I said, I'm originally from South Carolina, and it was the access to mental health here is much better than South Carolina back in 2014. I was using marijuana to cope with anxiety, and I was turned away because of that. I had to be drug-free in order to get mental health services, and that was pretty hard for me at that time. So I had someone here that had a little bit more knowledge about the mental health resources here, so I moved here. Yep.
Well, I'm so glad you did. I mean, you brought your presence and your creativity and passion to us, and we welcome that. And, there's a whole thing in recovery circles, whether it's housing first or recovery first, the sort of chicken or egg question. A lot of housing services, for example, used to say, well, you've got to not smoke marijuana and not drink and do this and do that, and then we'll give you a place to live. In the meantime, you can manage all that recovery stuff while being homeless. Or if you have untreated anxiety, you're doing what you can to help yourself. So to me, it's ridiculous to say, well, you've got to quit all that stuff that you're doing to get by, and then we'll give you some help. So I'm glad that you showed that perseverance and got help anyways in a better space.
Definitely.
Yeah. All due respect to South Carolina, but that's a crap policy.
Yeah. I
Those
hope
are
it's
my
changed.
words. I'm sorry?
I said, I hope it's changed by now.
I hope so too. And when I say something's a crap policy, I'm speaking for Peg Morrison, not NAMI officially, of course. Okay, so one of your goals is to educate folks about invisible disabilities. What are some of the signs and symptoms that you are dealing with?
My big one is anxiety and PTSD. That played a major role, as well as depression. I've been in the house for days before, not wanting to leave, not even able to walk the dog because I'm avoiding the neighbors. grocery stores, not being able to go to the grocery store because it's just too much social interaction. So it was crippling to my life, like not being able to leave home and be productive. So I had to do something about it. And my goal was to get through it. So I did. And I found every resource that I could. And, you know, not just me searching for it, but also people coming to me as well because of the services that I was already getting. So.
Mm-hmm. So you really did. When I met you at the NAMI walk, you would come with your dog. And I don't think I realized, just looking at you, this together woman who wanted to tell me about her apparel company. I had no idea how very far you'd come.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had I will say my first major panic attack in 2012 when I used to work at a call center, and I went straight to a therapist. I just woke up that morning with the panic attack, and for whatever reason, I just knew to go to a therapist. And that's when my mental health journey started, from state to state that I've lived in. So I
Mm-hmm.
never gave up on that part.
Yeah. So can you tell us, when you were in that space where it was really hard to leave the house and do things that are necessary for daily living, like grocery shopping, like walking the dog, what what were some of the baby steps or things that helped you?
Therapy. Therapy was the major thing that helped. My therapist, she pretty much gave me like homework. The main goal started off with me walking the dog like to my mailbox every day.
Mm,
And once I started doing that, before you know it, I'm walking the whole neighborhood. You know, I still have my days when I avoid the neighbors, but you know, I'm still out there now. So that was
mm-hmm.
a big one for me. Just being able to do that. That gave me the courage to go back to the grocery store. Um, so it's still, you know, times when I'm still struggling with it, but overall, I'm way better than I used to be.
Sure. So it sounds like you took very small steps and went out in very small, you had small goals that were not too intimidating, and sort of desensitized yourself to being out and about in the world until you could go longer, farther, and handle more of these errands, grocery shopping, things that kind of have to be done. It's interesting too. I'm a big dog walker too, and that there are so many benefits to that. Just, it gets you outside, it gets you exercising, it gives you some structure to the day.
Yeah. Yeah. And that
Yeah.
definitely helps. Being in the sun helps with depression. So I love the sun. And that's another reason I like to get outside as well, because as long as the sun's out, I'm happy. So,
Right. That's another good point. Yeah. There's that correlation with seeing the sunshine and elevating your mood, even if it's
oh, yeah.
not a perfectly bright sunny day, just being out there and getting what you can.
Hmm.
Right on. Okay. So what else do you think people need to know about mental health challenges, especially in the Black community?
They definitely need to know that it's okay to say no. It's safe to say no. It's okay to take a day off of work if you need it. We all need a day off of work sometimes, and it's okay to ask for help as well.
Mm-hmm.
And my big thing I would say is setting boundaries is a big deal. You have to set
Mm-hmm.
boundaries, and regardless of who it's with, friends, family members. I'm still working on that myself, but I feel way better knowing I can set those boundaries.
Right. Boundaries are
Yep.
so key. And I feel like, at least in my case, it's something I didn't grow up with. It wasn't something that people talked about. It's just something that you're supposed to get somehow. Um, and I think women in particular have a hard time saying no if they feel needed or someone's pressing them. It's it takes
Yep.
practice, to find
Oh
that
yeah.
thing. Right. So did you, and I know you had people in your family who kind of depended on you a lot.
Hmm.
What were some things that helped you learn to say no or learn to set those boundaries?
Honestly, being pushed to the brinks almost. a lot of the times.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, Going through the same things over and over with a lot of different people and not getting different results. So I just had to step back and set my own boundaries for my own mental health. I put
Wow.
that's my priority when it comes to anybody now.
I can so relate to that. Like I had to wait until I had a slightly sick feeling before I would say no, until I realized, okay, this person really only calls me when they need their dog babysat, or they're really only calling me when they need to borrow $5 or $10.
Yeah.
And that after a while, I just kind of get this queasy feeling, and that queasy feeling just started to come sooner.
Yeah. Still love them, but you have to have those boundaries for yourself. Yeah.
Right, right. That is so much a key for so many people with recovery, is just putting yourself first. You have to fill your own cup. You can't pour from an empty one.
Yeah. And
Um,
I had to learn not to explain everything too. That was a big one. You don't have to explain every time you need a break. Just take the break. Yeah.
that is a good point. Yeah. Because if I say no, because I have a headache, or no, because I have to do something, you're kind of assuming that you're accountable to that person somehow, that you owe them accountability for your time. And
Hmm.
we don't. We're independent women. If you say no, that's a complete sentence.
Yep.
Yeah,
It
good
is.
points. So, your mother passed away when you were just 12, which sounds so difficult. And your younger brother depended on you for support, probably other folks in your family. How did that impact you?
Uh, I started putting people before me, not realizing that I was doing that. Not knowing how to ask for help when I needed it myself. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of self neglect until I learned how to set, like I said, personal boundaries along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, just wasn't aware of the neglect that I was giving to myself because I was pouring into everybody else except myself. Yep.
Sure. Well, that makes a lot of sense. So the mother of the household is now gone, and you are rising to the occasion, which is admirable. And
Yeah.
but then it comes at a cost to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was,
Hmm.
in school and I was playing sports at that time as well. So juggling all of that and me and my brother depending on each other at the same time.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I'm glad you had someone to go through it with, at least. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and you told me a little bit about your mother and her mental health, and how she opened the door to you getting treatment when you realized you needed it. What did that look like?
My mom, I remember her going to the hospital when we were younger. She would go stay on weekends sometimes. At first, I didn't really get it when we would drop her off, but then I started to catch on. We were dropping her off for her own good, to get a break. And she would come back almost like a different person sometime when she was rested.
Mm,
I've I've witnessed her, try to self-harm as well. So that played a big part in it. So her going to therapy and her taking us to therapy as kids, I guess that planted that root in me along the way that that's where I'm supposed to go when I feel this way.
that's huge. I love hearing that, and I wish more kids had that message as part of their childhood.
Hmm.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like she had some challenging circumstances, but did her best. I
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My own mother lived with depression and anxiety, and she tried to get help. I'm probably older than you. It was in the 70s, late 60s, 70s, when she tried to get help. And the doctor gave her Valium, and it would just put her to sleep. So she couldn't be taking that and trying to manage 6 kids in a household. So I feel like she tried to be that role model, but the help that she was offered wasn't compatible with living a life. And those daily things that we have to do, the grocery shopping, the handling different responsibilities. So I'm
Yeah.
glad we're in an era where we can get help, and it's not like an either or. I can take this and feel better, or I can live and manage my life and feel like I'm participating more.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, you made a comment in one of our conversations that Black women are expected to wear masks or have to wear masks. Specifically, Black women have that pressure to be strong. You always got to be strong, but don't
Hmm.
venture into being the angry Black woman, which strikes me as, I mean, that can be a thin line. What kind of
Definitely.
pressure does that create socially and otherwise?
It makes it hard to be yourself in public. It's like you always have to be what everybody else wants you to be. You have to put on that smile no matter how you feel. Um, Even on a bad day, you can be walking in a grocery store, and it comes from even our own community of men, and they'll smile. It's nothing that bad in the world, and you don't know that.
Right.
But sometimes we're just moving on along with our day, but we just want to have a safe space where we can just be ourselves and just not be told to smile and or ask how was your day, and then we're chastised for how we answer how our day was. If we just say it was okay, that means we had a good day as well. We don't have to you know say it was a great day in order for us to say it was a good day. So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, every day isn't a great day for most people. We have a variety and ups and downs. So, yeah, the right to be authentic is super important. This seems like a good time for me to mention that NAMI Durham has a virtual support group. It meets Thursday nights. So, I mean, tough trade off. You have to be here or there. Um,
Right.
but it's a stress and anxiety group for African Americans. It's virtual. It's on our website. So check that out. Anyone who's listening, or if you have a friend who might be interested. And then back to your comments, I really did think a lot about that. Not, you can't be angry, but you have to be strong. I've heard it said of men that emotionally their range that's allowed in public is very limited. They can be happy or angry, but they
Yeah.
can't be sad because that's weak. And but then talking to you, I thought for Black women it's even narrower. You have to be
Yeah.
happy and strong, but never angry. And that's probably true for Black men to an extent, I would think.
Yeah,
um
it is. Especially the don't be sad or you can't be weak part. We grew up in households where you tell little boys they're not allowed to cry. So
mm,
they grow up, and then when you begging for emotions, they can't give you that because you know, it's a wall up since childhood.
right, right. And it's so unfortunate because it's it's sort of slamming the door in the face of the little boy's emotions. It's also depriving them of an opportunity to learn about this huge chunk of life. When
Yes.
you go into the world, that emotional intelligence can really help you. And if you've been told not to feel, don't show this, don't show that, you don't even know where your toolbox is. Like, it's just such a disadvantage. I grew up in an Irish Catholic family, and we didn't talk a lot about feelings. It was just our culture. So
Hmm.
I relate a little bit, that the language of feelings, the language of mental health, I had to learn all that. And just figuring out how I felt at any given moment could be really tough. So, yeah. This is kind of a fun question, which you can choose to answer or not, from Facebook. What part of South Carolina did you come from?
Sumter. It's about 30 minutes away from Columbia. Yeah.
Okay.
Small
Yeah. I've only been to the beach in South Carolina, but there's so many beautiful places there. So I'll have to travel there sometime maybe. Okay. Well, what do we got next in our question list here? Oh, your company. Tell us about 210 Black Rose.
210 Black Rose. The meaning behind 210 Black Rose is the 210 is the address of my house growing up where my mental health was greatly influenced. I would say in a negative and a positive way. And the black rose comes from, most people think of black roses to represent death, but it has dual definitions and it also means power. So I took that as a play on that. So that's where the 210 Black Rose comes from. And the goal behind 210 Black Rose is to break the stigma and start the conversation about mental health, mainly in my community, because we tend to sweep it under the rug a lot and use you have to be strong a lot in place of actually letting our feelings out. But I'm here for everybody. No, it doesn't matter who it is. I just want to help get the word out to anybody that feels like they aren't seen, regardless that we have an invisible disability or not. We still should be heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That is such an important point, that when you have an invisible disability, even if you couldn't go out in the world and function or pass or whatever you call it, you don't feel seen, you don't feel heard. Like there's this huge part of you that's in the shadows, that's kind of suffering. I have a friend, Gabe Howard, who says, when you have a mental health challenge, it's like you're running a marathon and you're wearing concrete boots and everyone else has their tennis shoes on and nobody understands why you're slow.
Yeah.
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 So the more creative ways we have to tell our stories, to have a conversation starter, I think that's just such a service and a really nice way of giving back and probably helping yourself too.
Yeah, because I have a hard time. I started off because it's taboo a lot of times to talk about mental health. I was embarrassed when I got my diagnosis. I was happy personally, but to express it to other people, it's hard to tell them when you're bipolar because of the stigma that's on that. And so I felt like bringing t-shirts into the mix and hats and other apparel, that will start the conversation about what's your t-shirt about? And then I'm more comfortable expressing to them. And then they can say, oh, I have a mental illness as well. So just an easy conversation starter. Yep.
Yeah, and so often they do say that, or I have a sibling, I have a mom, I have a mental illness as well. It's amazing to me when I got comfortable sharing my story, everyone in the room then has permission and you hear a lot more. It's kind of a
Yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy, I guess. Yeah, so
Yes.
good for you. And you said when you got your diagnosis, you were happy personally, but ashamed kind of outwardly for a while.
Yeah.
What made you happy on a personal level?
Because it was chaos, I would feel like when you don't really know what's going on inside of you and you're feeling like a lab rat because you're on this medicine one week and the next week you're on a different medicine. So when I finally moved to North Carolina and I got a good doctor and a good therapist, I was able to get stable and understand what was really going on with me. And acceptance was a big part of it for myself as well. I was in disbelief about the bipolar disorder at first. The depression and stuff, I knew that was there since childhood. But the bipolar disorder was really the thing that I had to like let sink in.
Sure.
Yeah.
A lot of comments in the chat box, like starting the conversation is the hardest part. And what is it? Brilliant idea to use t-shirts and hats as conversation starters. Yeah, I love the meaning of 210 Black Rose. So just letting you know, the comments in the chat box are coming here for you and supportive.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I bought a t-shirt today. I'll say that. I meant to buy one early enough to wear to the show, but at least I can say I bought one and next time I'll have it on.
Oh, yeah.
So
Thank you
you
for the
had,
support.
of course. Yeah, thank you for being here. It's exciting to have a different kind of story and a different way of sort of pushing back, against stigma, getting conversations started. So,
Yes.
another thing you and I have in common is we're dog lovers. I have my Juniper, who's our mascot here in the office, and you have Marley.
Yeah.
Is Marley there with you?
Yep. She's laying right here next to me, sleep right now.
Aw. So how has Marley been helpful to you beyond what we've talked about already?
Marley has made me be more social than I really am. So, because she's social, she loves people. So she likes to walk up to random people, and that makes me have to talk to them. uh, she definitely has made me think twice about days when I just didn't want to be here.
Mm.
So knowing I'm just like, who's going to take care of my dog? Who's going to love her the way I do? That makes me think twice about hurting myself, wanting to hurt myself. So yeah, I was even homeless for a while because I was trying to find the right housing for us because I refused to give up my dog for, for
Hmm.
anything. So I've had her since she's been a puppy, and she's an old lady now. So we're going to stick it
Oh,
out.
yeah. Well, they're so loyal to us, and it's wonderful that you were able to be loyal to her too. Can I ask what housing solution you found? Is that okay to ask?
Oh yeah, Trillium has been a big help in helping me with housing as well, finding that. Yep.
That's awesome. Okay.
Yes.
So for those of you who maybe are having a housing challenge or a mental health challenge, you can call your LMEMCO, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
mouthful. It stands for local management entity slash managed care organization. And those are the folks who are there to help you with mental health services. If you get Medicaid or if you don't get Medicaid, if you need insurance, they can help you find solutions in your area. So um, that's an important piece of information for everyone to know. It might not be Trillium for you, it might be Alliance or Avaya or something else, but check that out.
Yes.
Um, and what gives you hope?
What gives me hope right now is on Saturdays I do a vendors market on that's called Frankie's Outdoor Market on Saturdays here in Wilmington, and a lot of people that stop by my table, the positive encouragement that they leave me with, that's the thing that makes me happy. I of course the goal is to sell shirts because it starts the conversation, but just the people that are telling me that I'm doing something good and they thank me for doing this is what really makes me want to keep doing this and know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing.
Nice. All right.
Yeah.
Well, that gives me hope too. So we're going to pivot a little bit and wrap up the interview part of the show. Um,
Okay.
Before we move to the video of the week, I want to give a big shout out to our helpers working behind the scenes. That's Executive Director Gary Kreitz, our Appalachian South intern, Caitlin. I just blanked on her last name. Forgive me, Caitlin. Rita, and our angel psychiatric nurse, Gail Pruitt. Thank all of you for working on the chat box and Facebook tonight. I appreciate that. And for our video, we usually do something kind of fun, maybe a little bit light. This is a video produced by the national team. It's part of their series called Self Care University, and it's about using animals and pets to bolster your own recovery. Let's check this out.
Welcome to Self Care University. I am Alessandra Torresani and I am a NAMI ambassador. I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder when I was 21 years old, and I actually kept it quiet until just a few years ago when I got to meet other incredible people. 99.9% of them were part of the NAMI community, and I finally felt at home, like I found my people and that I wasn't judged and my life could be stigma-free and I could share my story. My emotional support is my best friend, which is my dog, Pee Wee Herman, and I have had him for 13 and a half years, and if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have been able to survive my first panic attack. When I had my first panic attack, he was luckily with me in the trailer when I was shooting a TV show, and I didn't know what to do. But because he was there just to emotionally support me and love me and kiss me and just lick and make my face a total mess, it made it okay. And so what I started to do is volunteer my time and just surround myself around these angelic creatures as much as I possibly could. And whenever I'm having a really terrible day or even a great day, it doesn't matter. I just want to be around animals because there's no judgment with them.
All right, so we'll stop there with the video. Gotta love that. No judgment zone with the pets. That's one thing I love too.
Yes.
So now we're going to take questions from our virtual studio audience on Zoom and Facebook Live. Please type your questions in the Q&A box if you're on Zoom, or in the comments section on Facebook. We'd love to hear from you. And we've already got one in the line here from Gary. If you were to talk to young African-American girls about mental health issues, what advice would you give them?
Good question, Gary. I would definitely tell them whatever fears they have about talking to someone about what's going on in their life. It's okay to do. It doesn't have to be a therapist right away. You can find a older person that you feel safe talking to. I didn't have that growing up, so I would love to be the person that can be that to someone else. So I would definitely tell them to find someone older that they trust to talk to, starting there.
Yeah, I love that suggestion, and especially starting with someone you trust. Because I know when you go to look for a therapist, a lot of white faces in the catalogs, and I wish we had more representation. Um,
Yes.
yeah, but I do think more and more people are trying to develop cultural humility and be, see through the eyes of the road that we can't walk personally, but it's kind of clear what racism does to people and communities and mental health. Anyways, I just wanted to acknowledge that.
Yeah.
This question, how did you decide to do a clothing line?
I'm very shy still, regardless of doing the clothing line. So that was the key for me. I know I've been in sales before, and I knew how to at least talk about a product. So I knew that a t-shirt always draws attention. People love t-shirts. So it's a conversation starter no matter where you are. It doesn't matter. Church, if you have on a t-shirt, a basketball game, somebody's going to ask about your t-shirt if they think it's cool.
Yeah. It is kind of an easy entree, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Are you into fashion? Was that part of the thought
Yeah,
process?
not a huge fashion person, but I love it enough to start my own clothing line. Yeah, definitely. Um, I used to work at a hat store, so that's where my love for it came into play.
Oh, I like that. That's fun.
Yeah.
Question about your giraffe picture. I have to ask, what draws you to giraffe pictures? I love it.
I love giraffes. They're tall. I'm tall. They're free. I really love giraffes. The picture I just happened to come across one day and fell in love with it and ended up buying.
Yeah, I support that. I love the color in that image, and I love the gentle giant presence of giraffes. They're just so sweet, and it's like, I don't know, to see them, it's has this calming effect because they're so calm. And then you can't beat a picture of a mother giraffe like swooping its neck way down and kissing the little baby giraffe. There's nothing more adorable than that anywhere. All right. So we have a lull in the questions. I'm going to make some quick announcements, and be sure to type in your question if you've got more to say or more to ask. Join us next week. We've got an interesting topic. Kylie Rochelle is going to talk to us about the connections between depression, anxiety, and epilepsy. It's something I hadn't really thought about, but there's a big overlap and correlation with mental health conditions and epilepsy. Studies have found that the prevalence is higher, and a lot of people have their first panic attack around the time of their first seizure. So a lot of interesting avenues to explore with that. Please fill out our survey that will appear when you leave the Zoom session. It will magically come up. It helps us improve over time. Tell us what you liked, what I might do differently, and it helps us show the value of the show to our funders as well. Registration too. We're in the process of simplifying the registration process for this program. Right now, you need to register every week. And in the future, you will just register once and have a link. That's going to change after the first of the year. So stay with us. It will get easier and easier. You can also find us on Facebook too. All right, back to our question list. We've had one pop up. Who is your hero?
Ooh, definitely my mom.
Aww.
I would say I had to pick anybody. Yeah. She's my inspiration behind the company, behind pushing it every day. Because she passed away at the age of 34. I'm 36. So like when I turned 34, that was a major deal for me. That was a big year for me because I didn't have anything to look beyond that at. So I'm doing this for her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's inspiring. That's a wonderful tribute. I'm sure she's proud.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So another question, how did you learn to live independently? Did it come sort of naturally as you were growing up and had a younger brother to take care of, or was it part of the support services you got from places like Trillium?
When you say living independently, just like learning how to just live on my own, pretty much. Yeah. You know, I did have support from Trillium. However, I've always been independent. You know, I did fall on hard times and they were able to step in and assist me with that. However, I've always been able to just do it on my own. It's just always been in me. Since I've been a kid, I've just been resilient when it comes to anything. My back is against the wall. I'm going to find a way out of it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that kind of comes through in your energy. Question from Gary. Oh, I know this is a dangerous question, but there are differences in mental health care. Are there differences in mental health care in South Carolina versus North Carolina? You did touch on that a little bit.
I would say as of today, I'm not 100% sure, but back when I tried to get help, it definitely was. I was welcomed with open arms here in North Carolina, regardless of me smoking marijuana at the time, versus me in South Carolina and being told I had to go to rehab first before I started any type of mental health services.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an important difference.
Yep. And I got free service when I first moved here as well. So it wasn't like I had to pay out of pocket for anything. So that really helped.
That's fabulous. A comment from Tyler Reimer on Facebook. I can relate a lot to your testimony and your journey towards a better mental health. The stigma is real, and thanks for your efforts to breaking it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Tyler. Tyler was with us last week and sharing his story.
Okay, yeah.
This is a fun question. What do you do in your spare time?
I'm a huge basketball fan. So I watch a lot of basketball. I have a guilty pleasure of true crime as well. I spend a lot of time with Marley, and of course now trying to run a business. That's a lot of my time now, is looking for ideas and resources to help the community.
Right.
I'm a
what's your
Celtics fan.
Oh, okay. Celtics. Got it. Very nice. Perfect. So is there anything else you'd like us to know about mental health or your journey or your company?
I would like everyone to know just it's okay to talk about it. Like, even if you start your own personal group among your friends, which is a goal of mine eventually, to get a small group together. And I was inspired to do that because of BB Moore Campbell. I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, out from California. When
Yeah,
she
she's a
started her,
NAMI person.
yeah. So I was inspired to do something like that. So I encourage people to do stuff like that, is start your own groups. I know therapy can be expensive for some and they can't go, regardless of how many times we can say go to therapy. A lot of people can't afford it.
Right.
So find your own tribe and stick to that as long as you can, and then expand. Yep.
Yeah, I love that. And again, this is a good time to mention NAMI support groups, which are all completely free. We have general support groups. They're virtual, many of them, so you can join wherever you're located. And we have, if you're looking for a specific tribe, we have a group for LGBTQ folks. We have the African American stress and anxiety group. We have a group for folks who are learning to live independently, a new monthly TCL group. A lot of different groups to focus on your needs and where you're at, and find that safe space to say what you want to say and get support. So yeah, please check us out. Oh, nice. A comment from Christy, who is involved with NAMI in Central North Carolina. She's planning an art therapy event and would love to have us join her. So yeah, send us your links, Christy. We'd love to help promote that. That sounds awesome. Yeah, so we're kind of coming to the end. I think I'm not seeing more questions coming out, but as a reminder, please join us next week. We'll be talking about epilepsy and mental health with Kylie Rochelle. Oh, a comment from Olivia. She just bought her t-shirt, and thank you so much to
Thank you for
Lavani. Awesome. Please fill out our survey. And do you have any last thoughts for us?
Thank you all for the support. Whoever buys a t-shirt, a hat. If you are in the Wilmington area, like I said, Saturdays you can find me at the Frankie's Outdoor Market, supporting them and the community with my resources as well. Break the stigma and start the conversation and take care of your mental health.
Right on. I love it. If you're out there feeling alone, please reach out. Reach out to NAMI, reach out to someone you trust. There are people who will understand. We get it, and we'd love to hear from you. So thanks, everyone. Have a great night. And thanks, Lavani, for sharing your evening with us and your story. Great job.
Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.